Par Edition. This is 5-hour energy, by the way. Anyways, Iran has killed about 1,500 protesters, and they are all anti-government. They are all anti, establishment as far as the Islamic State that has been in charge of Iran for several decades now. The United States is wanting to intervene and essentially have military operations against the Iranian government if they continue to fire civilians. Now, you might ask yourself, this is a good thing, and I also believe it's a good thing, because the Iranian government cannot continue to kill its own people, women and children and protesters, for voicing opposition on their rights and their economy and things that are pretty typical for a democracy, in action. At least the people want democracy. So when it comes to a revolution and it comes to the United States involvement in like an Iranian revolution, I honestly believe that the United States should not only have boots on the ground if they are going to be supporting the Iranian people, but also supporting them with firearms. I mean, although the Bay of Pigs did not work with Cuba, giving the civilians and the opposition a right to defend themselves and a right to bear arms against the Iranian regime would be money well spent for the United States. So hear me out. Let's just say there's, 50,000 opposition that are protesting. Well, why not just give them weapons and let them take over the government the old-fashioned way? This is essentially what the United States wants in countries like Iran, for the people to overthrow their dictator government. It's also what they want in other countries. Now, if you are talking about civilians being shot in the streets, why not have an armed revolution? Why does the United States not give weapons to the protesters so that the protesters can become their own militia and take over the government the old-fashioned American way? Well, it should be done, because the United States will get involved one way or another. They've already gotten involved with economic sanctions, but they are not going to be getting involved in any other way unless there's going to be more life lost. And more life loss will continue to happen just because they're shooting civilians in the streets. Now, you look at how this is going to affect our everyday life. Well, it will not, because as you know, the government will continue to print money. The government will continue to fund overseas ventures. But to keep even one Iranian life safe, that is the goal. And the goal is to destabilize the Iranian regime that are completely overwhelmed with leadership that are Islamic terrorists, and they are the number one supporter of terrorism across the board. They've spread money across the Islamic world for jihad and ISIS for well over 2 decades. So it's time for them to. But when the people will make them collapse, that will be the tell sign of the true revolution. That's going to be a permanent revolution for Iran. Now, I was watching some news about how they were cutting the protesters off by taking down the internet and by taking down resources that they need to survive. With that said, all of the resources that they need to survive, such as internet, water, electricity, the government does that to keep them from communicating and with each other and to keep them from organizing protests, or, like I said, a military militia. I talk about Cuba a lot on this channel, but I've been. And the idea is that when there were protesters in Havana in 2023, the government took out the internet and they took out the structure of communication and the means of communication amongst Cubans, so they could not organize the protest. And that's exactly what they are doing in Iran. They're taking away the means of communication from individuals trying to seek this justice, trying to seek an organization to the takeover. And they are doing it in a gradual and now even higher state where Iranians cannot communicate. And a lot of times, when you look at the reason they're starting this protest, is they can't put food on the table because of hyperinflation. So the government not only is inflating their currency, but the Islamic rule is crippling to the Iranians, so much that 1,500 have given their lives already. It's only July 12th. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. See you.